pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Motion to approve our agenda is printed.
I move the agenda as approved. Approve the agenda as printed.
I'll second this motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Minutes of last week's meeting, any additions or corrections?
I will look through the minutes, and I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. General public, I presume, you got something, Gary?
Yeah, couple things. They're putting this new electrical line through this area out here, and you had to widen some driveways,
They're putting in driveways where every pole is.
where every pole is,
Yeah.
And taking them out again.
and nothing at the crossroads, nothing adding on to any of those.
You mean for corners, you mean? No.
Not that I know of, unless they happen to be a pole at the corner, then they'll put a temporary drive in, put the pole in, take the driveway out.
What I'm getting at is, and Jerry should know, we need some wide driveways, these farmers. Wouldn't it be a time maybe to say, hey, leave this one or leave that one? I would like to see in a half a mile or a mile, like 100-foot driveway, just for places where people can pull off. These combines and semi-tractors and all of our equipment is getting so big. Just have places where you could pull off when you meet people for safety concerns. But not only that, for the farmers, if you've ever got some driveways that are 100 or 150 feet, I've had them for years, when you get the muddy conditions, we just park the semi there, the grain cart never goes on the road, you never block the road. The same way for fertilizer companies that are spreading fertilizer, it works so good. But our county engineer just cannot understand it. And I know one of the supervisors in Fort Dodge is gonna try to get them where they're doing all these wind farms, to leave some of the driveways and the corners where they had to add on, make the corners bigger up the crossroads. Try to get them to leave them and the wide driveways, because, I mean, we got driveways that are for horse and buggies, not for semis, but we cannot get that to our engineer. He just insists you gotta have all these driveways taken off. I just think if somebody go along and say, hey, let's leave this driveway. I don't know how wide the ones are putting on in out there, do you know, Jerry?
Oh, I was thinking more like 40 feet, weren't they?
I think so. I think the issue, they probably won't be good for driveways, because there's gonna be a pole sitting in the middle of that driveway. So, it won't work for a
Yeah, they're
driveway.
gonna-
So that's why they're gonna pull them back out.
Well, I didn't understand that.
Plus,
Yeah.
the other problem is they're putting the tubes in where they're temporary tubes, and they're not putting that grade where they need to be, they're just gonna be laid on top of the ground, that'll be a problem. And the best thing is if a farmer really wanted it, you know, they should get a driveway permit before they do it. Put it in right, otherwise it won't be at spec.
But even if you go on farther,
I think they're 40 feet.
with this, where you clean out a ditch and you're hauling all this dirt for miles and putting it in a pile, make some driveways where you can have a turnout for people. I just think these roads are so narrow for this big equipment. I just think it's something that needs to be looked into. And another thing, I see we're gonna hire another deputy. You read the Humboldt paper, you've got all these calls, like chicken on Highway 3, it's just unbelievable, the deputies that are running around the country on useless calls. Why don't you have the people that call in these calls identify themselves? Maybe they quit calling in these no-sense calls. It's terrible. You read the Humboldt paper, there's a half a page of sheriff and, it's unreal.
Well, they know typically who calls in.
So, don't you think maybe cut it down a little? They, I mean, it's
Well,
gonna take one.
I think your county attorney would,
I
Yeah, address that, John.
I think maybe if we could have a class that teaches people the difference between a fire and not a fire, I think we'd be in better shape. Because they call in on all kinds of things they think are fires. There are an incredible amount of wasteful calls. If you have the deputies in here, they'll tell you that a lot of their calls are wasteful. The problem is, people are not great at expressing themselves, and they call in with something that seems absolutely ridiculous, and they find out that it's domestic, or that a kid is missing, or that somebody put a car in the ditch and took off running. It's hard, because you don't wanna influence people and have them not call in, and not every one of these calls is 911. Some are just to the sheriff's department or police department, but, you know, it would be nice if there were calls the deputies didn't have to go on, but it's based on what people end up telling the dispatchers, is sometimes they just have to go out and find out what it is. And Gary, if you could figure out a way for them not to have to go on some of these calls, they would love me for it. I don't know how to strike a balance between having some of the ridiculous calls stop and having, and then determining just based on a 20-second, 30-second phone call, whether it's a good call or not. I mean, that I think is always gonna be the problem.
But I mean, do other counties have this? I don't see it in the Fort Dodge paper.
I think if you look at the messenger, I think what they put in there is not reflective of the amount of calls that they get. I mean, I would be shocked to find out that on a Friday, the sheriff's department got 6 calls total in Webster County. No, it's the same everywhere. We just have more information in our paper here versus Webster County. And if you go through the log books in Webster County or Pocahontas County or Cassuth County, you'll see just the volume of calls, and sometimes it's just, hey, there's a light on my neighbor's house and they're gone. There's a door, I mean, you see all the alarms going off of businesses here, the doors being left open. They check that out, and almost every time it's an accident, it's an employee that did it, but the one time it's not, they're gonna have to show up. I don't
think if you had them put the name in the paper or the call, it would slow it down a little bit.
You know, if they wanted to put the names in the paper, then that would be...
Who would that be up to?
That would be up to the paper. That's, because they usually put, either who calls in, or they definitely have the numbers, and it would be, in most cases, discoverable through public record requests or freedom of information requests.
It's just ridiculous, the things you read in there. It's just funny paper.
The reason though that we're hiring the deputies, we got a court order that we have to have a deputy at the courthouse,
I understand that.
trials.
But I just think it's a waste of...
Part of dealing with the public.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Anything else?
yeah, but I'm gonna give up.
Okay, we need a motion to go into drainage.
So moved. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're in drainage. Is anybody else out there?
Brother stumped beans this week. Yeah. Yeah, they've been working on corn for a couple of days, drying it, running through the dryers,
Still about 19 out of 20 of them.
Yeah, I think they go from 17.5 to 21.
Want a break? Okay, we're gonna discuss DD 125.
Okay, just bring you up to speed with conversations I've had with Mike Boland, state engineer. Good. And just general review of the situation. You all remember the bids came in high. There are some things we want to look at when we consider whether it's worth rebidding. There was fairly low interest in the job, which I don't understand. But things we can do to help that out are rebid it at the opportune month that you could bid, which would probably be January. We could take the pipe, the materials out, because the materials are probably two-thirds of the cost of this project. And some contractors do not like to bond for the pipe. I mean, they're bonding for the pipe and it's not their product. So that's one thing, too. Another thing would be to give them even longer to get it done, and needed to clear some of this with Mike, because that will string finalizing the project out a little longer. I know that there's one contractor I talked to, and I talked to 3 or 4 of them ahead and after the bid. He had just picked up another big job. They were very interested in this one, but he was concerned that he'd run out of time since he just picked up another job. So, and that was a very good contractor. They do a lot of big jobs. They have a great reputation. So getting people like that interested in it would be a big plus. In conversation with Mike, and he'll have to correct me if I say anything wrong here, if we go to rebid on this, they will let us re-examine our estimate, and with justification on prices, they will accept a higher estimate from the engineer on this project, which would, in essence, increase the amount of grant money that would be obtained for the project. So, in rebidding, the goal is to get a better price, give them enough time to be sure you get as much interest as you can, get the possibility of additional grant money in there to get the cost down to closer to what we'd shown in the preliminary engineering report as far as the cost per acre to the landowners.
So by doing this, you go from approximately 60% back to the 75%?
Yes, correct. Yep, it was like 61% on the half-inch coefficient, we'd get it back up to, yes, that's well put. That's what we're looking for. But we have to justify the prices we put on that preliminary engineering report, and I've already started a little of that with some past bids. And I'll do some more research there to give as realistic as possible engineer's estimate. Typically, our estimates are slightly on the high side. I think I didn't allow enough for the depth for part of this.
That's part of it.
Yeah, yep.
Do we have to bid the pipe in for different suppliers, or is that?
Yes, yeah, and that won't hurt a thing.
No.
There may only be 2 bidders on it, Cretex and Hancock Concrete Products. Longer ago, we've gotten it from a couple other places, one from Omaha and one in Illinois, but cost of transportation, I think, is gonna shoot them out of it, yeah, so.
Do you like to go with cement? Can you go with plastic?
Well, if you go with the type of installation that they would recommend for plastic with any kind of depth on it, the cost is not that much different. 'Cause you should use rock all around the pipe, that adds to it. You have the same excavation, there is a difference in material cost, but I've had several contractors say they do not want to use the plastic for mains. Now, on laterals and everything, it's wonderful. I mean, you can put a lot of it in relatively inexpensive. On the mains themselves, we're looking at this to be a minimum of a 100-year system, hopefully 150 years. And I don't think that's out of line. So, we've been sticking with the county mains as concrete, getting the longevity. Some of this old pipe, it's amazing, you know, the manufacturing processes weren't as good, and still, we've got 100 years now on some of these systems, and still functioning, so. I do have a map we prepared that shows the district boundary, and then it shows the points per acre we'd have, for, different sections here. And I've got quite a few of these. If we have to make more, we can. Basically, the yellow and greens, and I won't say too much for this. the yellow and the greens are the soils that don't need it as much. The darker the orange, the more it needs it. So they give you an indication of the general way that it will go as far as years compared to others in the area. Try to make it green enough so I don't have to worry about making. Again, this is just this is general. I mean, we'll have to go through the report to get anything finalized, of course, but if you can pick out your land, and the section numbers are there, and, again, this is, I don't know if you wanna know which particular soils they are. I mean, there's a number. It's what?
The number soils are listed.
They're listed, but, like the 138s are clarions.
Right.
And if it's a B, it's more slope than just a plain 138, and if it's 138C, there's more slope yet, so it's lesser assessment. Okoboji is 6, there isn't much of that in there. Nicollet is 55. There's one soil in here I don't remember seeing in a district before, Zenor, Z-E-N-O-R. That one wasn't familiar to me. We get into the soils report whenever there's an unfamiliar soil, and we check on crop suitability and whether it's typically needing drainage or not. Matter of fact, in the soils report, there's a page that talks about highly productive agricultural soil, and several of those say when drained. So, yeah, so again, we use the soils quite a bit because it's such a good indication of the need for drainage and the potential for crop. So, we'll be doing a classification for this, of course, and people have the right then to object, and make their case on why they think it should be lower. But, yeah, like I say, this gives you a general indication at least. And I actually thought section 29 might have less of the yellow and green than it does. That was an eye-opener to me. I thought, just in my general knowledge of that section, that there'd be no yellow or green in it, or hardly any, but there's a fair amount actually, So yeah, the decision today, I guess, is whether to rebid it or not.
Well, I think that buys us more time, Rick.
Yeah.
I think there's too many unknowns where we're at today. I really personally think we probably should have split it out, material with the contractor, and I think part of the reason that got to be a big issue, the cost plus the depth of the digging.
Yes.
So those are two big items, that's why this project's so much more money.
Yep.
And I do believe your estimate probably was a little low because of the digging.
Yes.
Cost. I don't think we figured in how much more it takes to dig, 30 feet versus
And
10 feet.
and we have no way to know what the actual price of the materials were presented to the contractors. You will know now.
Well, knowing there was one contractor interested that couldn't bid it because
Yeah.
of their timing, I think a January bid date would help them to line up work for
I do
next
too,
year, so.
and give them enough time. I in good faith couldn't recommend awarding at the bids that you got. I mean,
And along with that, I think Mike is showing us that their willingness to get these ag wells closed is what they feel is the right way. I think their willingness to support it at the higher level is a big part of this too.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's huge. Yeah.
Any comments from landowners?
Because we didn't do all this before, that's what you're saying you need to do now.
Because we gave them enough time to build it, okay? There really is enough time to build it. But what you can't allow for is a contractor or two that just picked up big jobs. The separating out the materials, it's a headache for us, but in the past, on the big jobs, we've done it because we feel it saves enough money, to go ahead and do that. I thought there was gonna be enough interest in this that we didn't have to do it on this from enough big contractors, that we wouldn't have to. The time of year for bid letting is not as critical if you give them plenty of time to build it. I think we gave till September, with everything done by October, so, there was enough time there to build it, but it had to be a contractor that could come in fairly soon, and get with it, so,
I've always thought Denver Underground was one of the top ones. What's going on out here?
I'll tell you, their president, or whatever his title is, was thoroughly upset that any of his people would take any shortcuts. Out here, there was a tile connection that they didn't finish properly, that sucked dirt. There were two of those, actually. And then there was also two places where, at the joint of two pipe, one pipe went down. It's like a heavy load went across it, but there's nothing for tracks. So, and I talked to not only the president, the guy that is in charge of the company, Brent Stagey. I also talked to the foreman that was on that job and is out on a lot of their jobs. Both very disgusted that any of that would have happened. The foreman took some responsibility in that he said he will sometimes tell his people, go back, finish this, take care of it, get back here, as quick as you can.
Are they gonna bear any of the costs on that?
Yes, yes. How much, I'm not sure yet. They
are gonna bear part of it.
Yes, they are.
But he's asking whether they're...
Yeah, see, and that's what, we thought it was just probably a small deal that they weren't called in. And I just had an informal discussion with the board, just talking about it, that we need to make more effort to get the responsible contractor back in, especially somebody that reputable.
In this case where they're more reputable.
That's right. That's right.
They're not all the same.
They would have taken care of it, I'm absolutely convinced. But, yeah, they're one of the contractors I trust the most. It's unfortunate,
But they are gonna take care of part of Marshall's cost. Are they gonna do any work of their own then, or are we gonna...
Well, I think it's done.
All right.
I talked to Doug this morning, and it sounds like it's all done except some leveling.
Okay.
And he said it was just a little wet to take care of that, otherwise he would have taken care of that, so, yeah. We haven't talked amounts, we did talk about the cost, and basically said it depends on how much it is, and, wish they'd had a chance to come in and take care of it, so. I think as a minimum, they should pay what it would cost them to come in and fix it. That's the absolute minimum.
Go by the numbers.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we'll see where Doug comes in with the total cost on it, and take care of that, so, yeah.
Okay, we need a motion to reject the bids
Yes,
first.
yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Second, any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Now it's consideration as far as setting a bid date. January's a good month.
Yeah.
I hate to go later than February.
Should we ask the landowners if they wanna pursue this any further?
Well, yeah, I guess they can.
I mean, what's the interest of the landowners?
How much higher is it gonna go?
It's not gonna go higher. If we extend we give bid in the perfect month, give them longer to build it, take the materials out.
It's just unbelievable that before it was gonna cost me a little over $500 an acre, and now it's gonna cost over $7.
That's what we're trying to remedy with this. Yes,
That's why we're not taking this...
that's why we're not, yeah, that's why they rejected the bids. Yeah, we don't want, that's what I said, I
But
couldn't...
it's just a whole idea to jump that much more in just a few months, I mean, it's...
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
part of it is you only got 60% payment as opposed to 75.
Right. Yeah, that makes a big
Much higher
difference.
for the landowners.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. I mean, doesn't sound like a big percentage, but at those...
No, the best thing about it is, the best thing is, though, we'll be able to start over. Maybe we'll get better bids, because there'll be more participation, And with their cost sharing, we should be back to where, we might be close to where we were beginning with pot.
That's our goal, absolutely.
And if we don't like it, then we can reject it, you know, if there's a
That's
big
right.
issue, then we don't like it.
Are you going with half inch or 1 inch?
Like to bid both, to give you the option immediately following the bids to decide what you wanna do.
The 75% funding's on the half inch. The difference between the half and the inch would have to be picked up by the landowners if you went that way.
Yeah.
There's no...
No, that consists of is bigger tile, right?
Right,
Basically.
correct. Yep, that is correct. We'll have prices for both, costs for both,
Right.
and can break that down based on grant and what it would be cost per acre to the landowners, yeah.
How many wells for this close?
12, yeah.
The cost,
Is it 13 with that extra one? Okay.
the cost of this second estimate, where's that money coming from?
Well, the cost of the estimate won't be much. I mean, I'll have less than a day's work in it.
You're pretty well done.
I just gotta tweak the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, and it'd probably take a day to separate out the materials from, I mean, we bid it installed. There's just a few items you have to separate. For example, you have to make some things incidental to supplying the materials, like the plugs, the wrap for the joints. So we have to get that wording in there, but we've got one to follow. Frankly, our receptionist could write that part of it because she's done it, she can pull it from another spec, so it'll go quickly.
So Rick, will that additional well that was, you know, separated out, will that be part of this bid? Will we have
I
that
intend to
now?
make it part of it. I've got an annexation report.
Clear to have that.
Yes, I've got an annexation report that I wanna file to take
Okay.
care of that,
Okay,
so it's in there,
all right.
for part of this.
Rick, when you figured this, you told me one time the water doesn't flow south underneath that road where that little bridge is. Well, the water does flow for days. If we get a 4-inch rain, it flows, and anybody in here will tell you that, it flows south for days. Now, are you figuring the water, are you figuring this system for just the water that ends up ponding, or are you figuring other into that?
Figuring all the water that falls within the blue line on that drum is what we're gonna handle.
I mean, actually, this tile, all it's gonna do is take what's left ponding. The surface water all runs to the south.
Well, I hope we can pick up a lot of that with intakes. I mean, if it falls within that blue line, we're gonna try and pick it up. Some of it, under extreme conditions, could still go under that road at the south end of 29.
No, it's gonna go under that road. I mean, that's like a river, right, Mel?
Right.
Now, we're gonna be picking water up throughout the system, that, some of it that got there now, I mean, we're gonna pick it up, say the south half of our system or whatever, it's gonna pick up water that used to go under that bridge as far as the surface water. I mean, we're trying to pick up everything inside the blue line. That's how we figured the capacity.
Now, don't you think the contractors all know a little bit? Now, that's kind of a mess they're gonna go through when they go through my farm. That's how many tiles they're gonna go through. Shouldn't they know that?
It's good if we can get those.
Well, I mean, I got them back in 19, one of the mains, there's a 24-inch main that goes through there. Got the whole thing right here. I would think they kind of, that's a mess.
Actually, it's better yet for us, because sometimes then we can shift the line just a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, nobody's ever contacted me about that.
Well, so many people don't have the maps, and that's part of the reason, but if we could get copies, it'd be wonderful. No, we'd love to accept some of that, too. Like I say, sometimes just a little shift in our line can avoid a line, or it can parallel one, or
Now, you
whatever.
said you were gonna have some figures on what each landowner's gonna have to pay. Do you have those?
I have to do a classification to get actual numbers. What I can tell you is the darkest colors in here will pay 2 to 3 times the average. The lighter colors will pay half or less. than the average.
And I'm gonna have to pay when you go through my tile, I'm gonna have to pay again, I'm gonna have to pay on that. I can understand I have to pay down where the sink well is, but when you put that main across me, it's gonna do me no good. I'm gonna have to pay.
Well, if you're in the watershed, you pay.
That's what I
And we're
mean.
supposed to do this all based on benefit, and if the benefit is little or none,
But that's what I wanna know. Are you gonna put it, classify me as little benefit or none?
well, parts of it, yes,
I
because...
mean, the whole thing across here, you've got me in the watershed that I paid.
Yeah, there's some, let's see, you're in section 18. There is there's areas in your section that, yeah, that's over in the west of you.
Only place that's gonna benefit me is for the sink well.
Yeah.
The rest of it, I got a 24-inch main.
Now, we cannot take into account private tiling because we have to, the code says you allow for, it doesn't say you allow for pattern tiling, but you allow as if everything's tiled.
And it is.
Yeah, yours is.
Yeah.
And, but even if someone else owned the land, they hadn't put any tile in there, they'd pay the same, because you have the right to, now, in yours, part can be adjusted probably because you're right at the outlet. Part of yours is right at the outlet. That'll reduce it. There's other places we reduce it. For example, if you're 3/4 of a mile away, say, from the main, so you have to go through other people, we'll reduce those.
And how come the code says you have to ask the landowner if you're gonna go through his ground to take water from one watershed to another? Nobody's asked me. Or
The
got
code
permission.
says you pay for damages if you take water, if you increase the quantity or the manner of discharge of water on another person, you're subject to damages, paying damages. We're not gonna be discharging on any of your ground. We're running the tile through it. So we won't be changing the amount of water or the manner of discharge on your ground. We're taking it through your ground in a tile, in a pipe.
But if I go across somebody's farm ground to get to an outlet, I gotta ask permission. I gotta have permission, or he can't let me go through.
They can deny your permission, and then you come to the supervisors, and you go through that process, which is what they're doing on this project.
So I'm not in that situation, I can't come to the supervisors and say, I don't want this to go through my ground?
You can say that, but the procedure is there to go forward and for damages to be paid and all of that. The procedure is there to be able to go forward, because, well, it had to be way back, because some people didn't want it, and just like today, some people don't want it. We run into landlords that are not, they're just concerned about the cash rent, not having a payment to make. We run into that situation, but there's procedures privately or for projects like this where you can go through a neighbor, but you have to compensate them for that.
If this project doesn't go through now after you rebid it, who pays your costs?
Probably the district, but there's,
Well,
most of the engineering's spent. I mean, to get through this stage, we have inspection and staking.
so everybody in this room's gonna, if this thing fails, we gotta pay anyhow?
Yes, the district's been established. Yes. No, that's,
The laws favored drainage.
yeah, that's
They
right.
set up to favor drainage to drain this part of the state.
Yeah, so.
Yes, go ahead.
Let's say everybody decides, no, we're not gonna do this, we're just gonna drop it, okay? And then in 2019, the state says, hey, we're gonna plug these wells, okay? So the wells are plugged, we have no drainage, and then this scoring map, what's gonna happen when all them, is this map gonna change? Because if all of these wells are plugged, who's gonna benefit? I mean, granted, our ground is red, high in points, but when all these are plugged, isn't that gonna change the color of everybody else's ground?
Well, there won't be assessments. I mean, there won't be levies, there won't be, so
So when the wells are plugged and everybody else is underwater, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, the grant money would be gone, and there'd be swamp or wetland or...
I guess what I'm getting at is, granted, I see now from your map, yeah, okay, we're gonna gain from this, but actually, everybody's gonna gain the same, because if those wells are plugged, they're gonna have a pond, lake,
Yeah.
just like us.
True.
But yeah, we're paying 2 to 3 times what everybody else is. That's
Because,
all I'm saying.
because there's more of it would drain off. I mean, if you see the yellows and the greens, those are the clarions, they're more sloping, the least sloping.
Drain off where?
On
Onto
some years,
ours.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, these
So
arguments
they're
still...
taking their water, but we're paying more to take...
That's true, but now, through the years, we have stepped up what the clarions pay, through input from farmers, because of that situation. Their water is draining onto yours. Now, the people that own the clarions will say, well, you got that land cheap, so you should pay more. I mean, we've heard this through the years, so we're trying to be fair with the clarions paying more than they used to, but not as much as the ground that will benefit more. So it's difficult.
Did you say the assessment would be prorated based on location to the end of the...
Some of that. Now, we're very near the outlet, we usually lower it, and sometimes at the extreme border, we lower it. Beyond that, it's special considerations, but soils is the biggest
You have to go a
factor.
mile to get to it, if you want to tie.
Yeah, we typically put a reduction on that, because you have to go through somebody else's ground, you have to get the permit to go through the road, yeah.
So there's no to it.
Well, that's, if the elevation wise you can get to it, there'll be an assessment. I mean, even though it's a long ways away. I mean, because it's,
I've had a couple of drainage attorneys say it's the availability of the system. It's there to use. Yes, some of you have to go further. Yes, some of you have to go through a road to get there, but it's there. It's the watershed, it's available, you have the right to connect.
It's kinda like a highway. You may not use the highway, you may go the gravel road, but that highway's out there, and you could use it, so you gotta help pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's that
you like
kind
it,
of,
but that's kinda...
it's that kind of thing, yeah. And that's where the code doesn't take into account whether you're pattern tiled or not, because everybody has the right to pattern tile. It's a big expense, it's a huge expense.
The road is public, land is not public. You have to get permission to go through somebody else's land, and it's gonna cost you some money. The road is public. It's yours to use, so that correlation is not correct.
Although they did have to get, permission to build a road at one point.
Yeah.
Right, easements, and that's
Yeah.
what tile ends up being. And the other point, it's tough when you've got the higher assessments, but also, that's where the tile line main is probably running. There are damages to offset that, so that will help the ones that have the highest percentage are still gonna get some reimbursement, because they're gonna get an offset for the process of going
True.
through there.
That helps.
It's not gonna cover it all, but...
But it helps, yeah, that's true. That's another good point.
What's your bill up till now, Rick?
I don't know, I mean, I don't keep tabs on it typically. I mean,
Have we paid him something already, Trish?
oh yeah, as it goes along, yeah, quite a bit.
Huh?
I can look it up for you. I'll have to ask.
Kinda interesting to know for us people.
We've got a bond too, don't we, though, Rick, from landowners for this project?
Yeah, yes,
I mean,
yes.
that part.
Yeah.
Would have to guarantee the first 10,000.
That's right.
How much is it? 10 or 20?
For the bond?
How much is our bond? Is it 5?
The bond is passed.
Because the project, because the district is
Oh, that's right, never
established.
mind.
Yeah.
Get that idea. Let's see.
Well, I guess the point now is, we've rejected it, we need to set a date for another hearing, for the bid letting, typically January.
Yeah, if you were picking the best month to bid, that'd be it. They could get guaranteed prices from the pipes providers, or their miscellaneous, or their fuel, the things that'll affect their bid. We'll just,
We go
yeah.
mid-January on a Monday. Got a calendar?
The 15th, right
Sixth
there.
to the 13th, or the 20th.
Look at
You can't read that small.
On your letter, it said we had some options to 1, 2, 3, or 4. When were we gonna be able to voice our opinion on those?
Does that talk about rejecting the bids and not going forward and those kinds of things?
Correct.
Well, I guess,
That was my question.
Sure,
What was the
that's-
landowner's interest? Do they wanna pursue this further, or do you just wanna drop it? Or what are the landowner's concerns? What would they want? What do you want it to do? 'Cause if-
Why don't you take a show of hands?
I guess
Not
you'd
all
got,
here, I'm sure, but give you a little idea.
yeah, that's the only danger of that is,
yeah, that goes, but...
but, yeah, whatever you wanna
Communication
do.
to everyone.
Correct. It was. Yeah, let's see.
We can't really have the show of hands because not everybody's here that's included on the drainage district, so.
I know, that's what scares me a little, but,
Well, I'd like to know the people are probably more concerned are here. I could ask for a show of hands to see who wants to pursue this, just for our information, just to give us an idea how people feel.
We're not gonna award the contract, we already moved, but we're gonna reject the bids.
Yeah, we've already done that.
oh, 'cause you didn't have on there as far as setting the bid date or anything? Is that what you're saying, that should wait? And bidding in January, it's okay to wait a week or two if you want to.
If there's anybody in here that doesn't want to proceed, to see what we find out.
You're saying you want what now?
Is there anyone who definitely doesn't want anything to be studied here for us, just drop it.
So any of those that had their hands up, did you have ag wells on your property? Gary, you do? Okay. 2 out of the 5, 6. So that being said, I want to ask Rick, who's got a certain amount of engineering costs already, how much additional cost would it be just to
Just
find
going
out?
through that in my head. A number I came up with was $2,500.
So for $2,500, you guys don't want to find out what the answer is for a new bid, rebidding? Definitely don't want to take a chance on it.
Because if that thing's put in, it needs to be put in inch, honestly it does. And that's not gonna help me, that's gonna be bad for me, but honestly.
Yeah, but Gary, if you were planning on using it anyway, why would an inch make a difference to you?
It doesn't, I'm just saying, for the people that are gonna use it, it really needs to be an inch. That's
You have to leave the amount of water going down through there.
Oh, yeah. That one that you put up, DD two, a half inch, should've been an inch.
Yeah.
Should've been an inch.
No argument for me.
And I'm shooting myself in the foot by telling you that. Because it ain't gonna help me a bit, either way.
The water that runs out of this drainage district. I mean, you say all this water runs out.
Right.
Well, that actually increases the coefficiency of the tile. If all that surface water runs off, it does increase the coefficiency of that tile for the ponds and
That's why
whatever.
I asked him whether he was figuring that into it.
Yeah. I think you would say, had you figured what runs off?
No, I'm figuring that we're gonna contain it
Okay.
here. Now, some will get away. But, some of these pockets that fill up and then overflow and go,
Right.
we're gonna pick those up in the pocket, hopefully. So, I mean, that's our goal, but some will get away. You always have a rain you don't design for. Yeah.
Okay, we have set a date. Let's go on to the next step here, set the annexation report and set a hearing date.
determined in that one. What-
As of now?
On the book, it's not just bricks and stuff, it's mailing and legal and what have you.
Can't believe it's that low, actually.
Well-
But, that's good, that's good. No.
I'll
Well,
double
yeah.
check with Jan, I just pulled on my side.
Okay. All right.
Related to the,
We'll have to put on the agenda for, what, another week or so?
yeah, whatever works for you guys.
You didn't have a date on here for setting the bid letting, we'll have to do it in a later date.
The map at the back shows you most of what you really need to see with this. This is to get this south part of 29, the southeast corner of 30, the north end of the sections below that, into the district officially. This allows us to pick up that south ag well, which is a big plus. This is the logical place to take it with this project. And this is the report to formalize, including those people, in this. Had a recent ruling from the drainage attorney that as long as you get this taken care of ahead of time, they can be included in the project, in the levy, in the whole thing, so.
That's on this map here, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, yes.
Just looking at this.
Yeah.
It's already here.
Yeah, I put it there because that's what we're gonna call the watershed boundary, and I thought I'd just be as up to date as I could, and so, it wasn't any question as far as people getting notice, and, yeah. So.
That water all runs south, why is it getting, being that other shed?
Based on,
Watershed,
based on the contours we took, some of it can get into this watershed. We actually wrote all of that, it's been a year or two ago now, but there's portions of that we feel get in. Now, if you take some drainage another way, we should know that, so we can reduce that levy, reduce the benefit. That happens, it does, where the map shows one thing and maybe something else is happening because of the drainage you've done.
slope mine all runs, section 29, one south and down through, on south, down.
Yeah, quite a bit of the land in 29 does not get included, but the southwest corner does because we're picking up everything from that ag well.
31 and 32 is what I was...
Yeah.
That all goes south, but none of it goes north.
I'll review the topography that we took out there and see what's happening with that. Like I say, that if we can show that some of that is happening, we'll reduce those points, to minimize them.
The old map, look, everything from the ridge going south, or north, I mean.
Yeah.
That was right where the water runs. New one, followed from 31, and the rest of 30 all runs south.
We'll investigate that. This was from the topography that we had out there, and we'll check it all, and that will affect the points that is assigned to these parcels.
Now, being you've added on that other well, which I told you about, which you didn't know was there. There's ground to the south that runs into that area.
Yeah, into the well, I think.
If that, surface water,
Oh, okay.
surface water, and it goes south. If that farmer wants to add on across the road with the water to this system, can you do that?
If they're shown in the boundary, they can without any special conditions. If they're outside the boundary, they have to be annexed.
And that can happen? You
Yes.
just have to,
Yes, can happen.
and then, if that happens down the road 2 years from now, do they pay part of this?
If they are receiving any kind of benefit, once this system goes in, they can be made to pay part of it whenever they join. If they're getting no benefit until they do something on their own land, then they usually don't go back and make them pay part of this. But that's a board decision at the time of the annexation. So it's,
There can be a fee for...
there can be, absolutely can be a fee, because, and in this case, where you're putting in a big new system, it's be perfectly legitimate to charge.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. The law gives some flexibility to the board, but this would be a case where they should absolutely pay part of it.
But it's just, the water really goes that way, but now you're including it to go this way. It's just a fine line there. I don't understand what's gonna...
Well, the design of the system is what is basically establishing a watershed here, because we're intending to pick up the water that falls in this area, inside the blue line.
I have a question on the half inch versus 1 inch. So, everybody, if it goes, then 1 inch would be the way to go, because a half inch wouldn't do what it needs to do. So, would we save some money by just saying, hey, we're gonna go with 1 inch, this is what we want you to bid?
I don't think it would save anything. I mean, we
Would
might be
make a difference.
saving half an hour of my time or something, half an hour of the...
That's it, as far as the companies and their bids and...
I don't... See, there's really no...
My question then goes to Mike, for the 1 inch, the state, what, if you know that the 1 inch is probably gonna do the best job, why is there more money for the half inch that isn't gonna be as effective? Why isn't there more for the 1 inch that would be more effective?
Yeah, I can comment on that. What the state does is, we cost share for what their current design standards are. And their current design standards are for a half-inch drainage coefficient. So that's what we will cost share, and our goal is to cost share 75%. And the bids came in high, and the way the state looks at things, we have done things that will cost share up to 75% for a half-inch drainage coefficient of the actual cost or the engineer's estimate, whichever is less. And for whatever reason, the engineer's estimate was lower than the bids, and so that is what caused initially that to be higher for you guys, because we were capped at what the engineer's estimate was. And so we realized that's a hardship on the landowners, and so talking to our attorney general and stuff, what can we do? So the thought was, well, we can allow Rick to revise his estimate. He has to justify it. He can't say, oh, the bid came in this way, he's gotta try to find other projects. And that will allow him to revise his bid, which will allow us to increase our commitment to this project. And then by rebidding it, it also allows us to hopefully have a more competitive bid and a higher engineer's estimate, so we can cost share 75%. That is our goal, that's what we want to do, but we are restricted to what is the current design standard in that, across the state, and that's a half inch. I think it's good to recognize too that, 1 inch is gonna benefit the land more, but even with a half-inch coefficient, during the heavier rains, you have additional head pressure on the system, so you actually have higher capacity than a half-inch on a, so, don't know what it is, but it is, it's not up to an inch, but it is a little bit better. And again, our goal as a state is to close these wells. That's what we've been asked to do. That's why the public money is available. That's why this cost share is here. And I recognize that it's your land, and, we can't force you to do anything. We're offering, additional, the cost share money. We wanna get up to 75%. We're trying to figure out a way to do that. Okay, so you're not taking on the additional cost from the higher bid. If rebid this in January, and then at that time, you choose not to move forward, you know, that's the landowners, your decision. But just recognize that in 2019 or 20, you will be required to close your wells, and there won't be any money available at that time. And if that's how you want to proceed, you know, it's your land, you know, that's your decision. But as a state, if we rebid in January and you decide not to move forward at that time, and, you know, we're gonna take that money and apply it to other projects and move forward. So I'm just stating the facts, and, you know, so you guys are aware. Yeah, as a state, we're trying to figure out how can we work with you to get back up to that 75%. So it's, the costs are in line with what you were initially told.
Another question, the drainage district, I can't remember the gentleman's name that was here, the drainage district of Iowa, he was here visiting a couple weeks ago. And he mentioned that the EPA, was gonna get harder on water going into streams and lakes, and he was afraid that they were overstepping their bounds, basically. Okay, so the EPA doesn't want us to drain water into rivers and streams, but yet that's what the state's suggesting that we do, so what's that gonna be in the end? Once let's say we get this in and all of a sudden the EPA wins, I don't know who's gonna win. And they say, oh, by the way, you're putting water in here, we're gonna charge you double for doing that. But yet, we're being told to put the water in there?
It has to go somewhere like that in order to improve the drainage. I mean, that's what you've got, is creeks, rivers. If you're able to go forward with this now, EPA isn't gonna come back and make people unhook, take anything out.
They're just gonna charge us more for what we've got going in there, probably, maintenance and...
I guess I haven't heard that discussion in any of the meetings where they met to...
Maybe I misunderstood them, but that's the way it sounded to me, but...
A tax kind of thing, or how would that be?
I think it's more of a work permit, you'll have to file a work permit to do any kind of repair to tiles and things like that.
Oh, yeah, that was discussed.
Getting this done before is gonna be huge to doing it later.
Yeah. Yeah, there've been meetings around the state to try and get a handle on this, 'cause...
You mean like if it was grandfathered in, like it
Yeah,
was
you'll be
already there?
but what's there is there, but any kind of repair work you gotta do and stuff, you'll end up having to have
I didn't
permits.
understand it that way, thank you.
That's the way I understood.
I think you're gonna have,
We
like
went.
Rick says, I think you're gonna have permits, I think you're gonna have silt fence, I think you're gonna have days during the year that allow you to work. I mean, those are the things they could look at, I don't think they're gonna put a tax on them. And I think what Mike is saying, we don't know the future of water quality, how they're gonna act on it, but I also think Mike's saying the state at this point feels it's less harm to put it into stream and a creek than it is to put it in an ag well. That's why there's this funding, and that's why they're willing to fund at the half-inch coefficient, which is a standard that's been used. So even if we wanted to go to the inch bid, we need the half-inch bid just so he knows how much they will pay. And maybe if we rebid, maybe we get two more contractors. Maybe we split out the pipe and it looks more beneficial, maybe the timing's right. There might be a less of a difference between the half-inch and an inch, but we won't know that without taking bids. I don't think we can take these two bids and accept what's happened to this point.
Right.
We've already spent $12,000. Even if I wasn't affected by this as a property owner, for the benefit of the drainage district for 100 years to come, and what a 100-year-old tile system at this quality of level, I'd love to have it where I live. I mean, I could use it today, but I don't have the opportunity to get the 75% cost share. But for $2,500, I'd want to find out what the next move is. Because if you're the one that's got the ag well, and you turn it, and it gets turned down, what do you want to do when they tell you you can't drain your ag well? What if they can't? Then you're in that position by yourself. The rest of your landowners won't worry about you because it's your problem. So it's a big decision.
Humboldt has been very progressive. There's counties that won't consider 1 inch, but Gary said it, I mean, you're gonna do it, bite the bullet and do it, well, it's a lot more money, but you get twice the drainage. Humboldt has been very progressive, probably the most progressive county that I've seen.
Well, and he's right, if you take the difference between a half and an inch over 100 years, sure, the people paying now don't see it, but somebody's kids down the road that wanna farm, they're gonna see the advantage of this 100-year system. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
I think the good thing, just needs to have, I've been part of a few other ones down here, and you always run a lateral, closer, so you don't have to go a mile or so to get to the benefit of the main. We're here, we're stuck out here in no man's land, and, the other ones before, which have been really good, the laterals have been made accessible for people that don't have the main going through there. But here, we gotta go quite some distance.
Well, part of the consideration here is the quarry, we're gonna be dealing with a quarry, they're gonna wanna close that well, but if they take their water to the west side of the road, which is what they told me last week, their benefit is limited, so it's quite a distance to run over and get that lateral. We didn't put that in there because we think it's gonna be closed otherwise. That would probably get it closer to you. Okay.
And correct me, there's still an opportunity to put a lateral in.
Yeah.
There's just won't be the 75% cost share because there's not a well, but a lateral could still go in, the landowners
Yeah.
who are benefit from that lateral would pay for it.
And we could certainly look at something like that, to be added either now or later.
So if you start from the get-go, we've got a chance to remonstrance, no?
Not really remonstrance, but if it, yeah.
The district's established, whether we ever build it, that's another thing.
Right, there you go, good description.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So is the quarry out of the picture?
Not necessarily. I told them on the phone that they have to pay for the right of access to it. And then they brought up the point that they paid a lump sum in Pocahontas County on a project to handle any benefit they'd receive. So there's still some negotiation to go on there.
How much of a lump sum did they pay, any idea?
No idea. Now, maybe we can find out from Pocahontas County. Should be public information, I would think.
Yeah.
Okay, we move on to the annexation report.
Yeah, I guess it's just that hearing date, yeah.
We need to accept this report to have those, roughly, what is it, 200 and some acres?
Yes. I had a total on one of mine.
I didn't see it in the report, on the
No,
acres.
it's not. I had it, shoot, I thought I kept one of them that had the total on it. No.
Run a calculator on it.
220 some, I think.
125. More like 225 or so.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I had 227 on my mind, but I like I say, I thought I kept the one.
That would be strictly water that definitely goes to the south, you're gonna add state, right? That's gonna go south, there's no way.
Contours show that some of it can get north. Now, that's why I wanna review all that, because it may be, there may be very minimal benefit just to have access to that, say, to connect to that tile that we're gonna end up getting, well, in 29.
Do you think that water in that watershed that goes down there, that yours goes into, ever goes, never go north? No way.
I'm not gonna be able to prove that with our contours.
Never.
I'll look at it. I will look at it. If we find no benefit or whatever, the highest assessment will be $5 total
Tiles on
for
the
40 acres.
right now.
We'll evaluate that as part of this.
Okay, we need a new motion to accept this report.
And set a date. Already October 20th.
How far out do you have to go, Fred? How far out do you wanna go?
Like December 1st is okay. Is that enough?
December 1st.
think, that,
Is that enough time, Trish?
what time?
9 o'clock, December 1st. Somebody wanna make that motion?
So moved.
Go ahead, so move.
Second, I'll second there.
Second by Rick. Any other discussion? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Okay, got it down.
Okay, discussion on application for approval of construction over, across, and beneath established drainage districts.
Yeah, this,
Already had that, or were you?
this is,
something different?
this is, it's under 125, but it's not really a 125 issue. That's the, power line.
MP3.
Yeah, the agreement for the power line.
Oh, okay. Oh, that contract or
Yeah.
whatever.
And you were having the attorney look it over, or...
That's why John's here?
John's got a copy of it, but he hasn't seen it all yet.
That's not really why I'm here, no.
But I didn't think it was John that was doing that.
No, it probably wouldn't be able to be me, because it would be whoever's representing the drainage district.
Webster County has provided them with a copy, and they gave it to me. Both attorneys on the MP3 side and the Webster County side have agreed up on it. So they both looked at it. It doesn't look anything detrimental to us. It says that they have to replace with like product or concrete product if they cross our lines, notifications, 24-hour notification. I can give you a copy of this, but we'll need to act upon it at some point soon
Oh, okay.
to be able to give to them, because they need some kind of agreement.
This agreement with Webster County has.
John?
I don't have a problem with it, it's just, my advice on this doesn't, I don't think it's any good, because it would be advice you need to get from drainage attorney. I mean, I can, as far as the county fine, but I think it's fine for the drainage district, I just can't speak for it.
These are all districts that it'll cross.
I just want you to
Thanks, guys.
know how I should proceed with it, I'm not real sure.
Oops, sorry.
Well, I don't think there's gonna be a real, we're gonna have to have some kind of agreement.
Yeah.
And if this is what Webster County's doing, I think we ended up doing the same thing with the right-of-way stuff, you know, Cassuth's had a policy, we ended up modeling it to theirs. I mean, there could be a problem, if there is, we just have to address it as they come up. You know, if they break a tile, it's just that, it's stated that they need to fix it, and that's the main thing you're gonna have to deal with if there's an issue, but...
Do you want me to go ahead with it, or do you want to look at it? Do you want Doug Strike or whatever it is, the IDDA attorney to look at it first?
What do you think, guys?
Well, I think
I think it'll fly, I just think we need to move forward.
The
Yeah.
attorney that you would talk to on this would be Eric Eady, and that's the one Webster County consulted on it.
Yeah, so he would have the same reply back, so
I guess,
I'd say it's...
if you wanna do it that way, I think it's been approved by probably the same attorney we just talked to.
I think it'll match up. I think we
let
just...
him take a look at it and talk to him and see.
Okay,
Yeah.
so therefore, do I need a motion of to do that?
Okay.
Should I, I don't know.
Okay, so you want a motion to have, Edie take a look at it?
And if he sees no problems, move forward?
Yeah.
I think that's what you should say in the motion.
Okay. You make that motion, Jerry?
I'll let somebody else, I think too many.
Wake up.
Carl, wake up.
Carl made a motion?
I would move that he look at the situation, if he approved it, we approve it.
There you go.
Second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Rick.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
We have met with I wanna say pipeline all the time, the power people, and as far as drainage districts are going through and the route and how it compares to tile, and can't remember the number, there's one district that they kinda parallel it for a while, in a small district, they're aware of it.
I think the key is if we communicate well back to them, don't be afraid to give them information. I mean, you know, they might not, if they don't know of it, it's not, I mean, it's a problem for
That's
everybody,
right.
but if we make them aware of what's out there, at least we did our part.
Yep, and that's why we met with them early.
That's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
so.
All right. We got that done?
Sure.
Okay, DD 18.
Yep.
I did good, I read that.
Northeast corner of the county, basically. It's a fairly large district, can't remember the acres involved. There are,
If we,
isn't it northeast?
Well,
It's northeast.
Northeast,
Yeah,
sure
Carl's
it is.
Point.
It's up north of me, north of Renwick and a little bit west.
Yeah. There's,
I paid through the nose and get no benefit.
John Deere.
who, what?
I
You?
paid through the nose and get no benefit.
Of course.
Sorry.
Yeah, we saw your name in
Every
there.
year.
There's,
Makes me mad every time I get one of these.
How come it's so low?
We need an egg, we need an egg well.
Yes, that's right.
Get a project.
There's well over 10,000 acres in the district.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it is a big one. And we included a column of cost per acre average for each, parcel, just so you could see and compare if you wanted to. That's not typically part of it, as a matter of fact.
Too much.
The report we file doesn't even have the dollar amount typically, 'cause you determine that before you levy. You don't know what that's gonna be. This is our best approximation of what the levy may be, and that's $150,000. The digging out, the engineering, the interest, everything. Very reasonable cost because it was a clean out, didn't have trees, a lot of acres involved for the amount of work done. But it was time to reclassify it, things were unbalanced.
Probably hadn't been looked at for a long time.
That's
in
right,
that area.
that's right, what you're up against. And this one, last I knew, and I think we just went over $2 an acre average cost for the reclassification. When it's a large district and no towns involved, we can do a reclassification very economically. I mean, if you look at less than $3 an acre, and this one is way under $3 an acre. Most of them would be.
How big do you wanna set?
So you got 3 acres in farm though, you just,
Yeah, there you go.
she didn't hear that.
Oh,
How much time do you need?
well, she's gotta notify everybody.
can we do it December 1st?
Sure.
Yeah, that's sure, I mean, that's,
I just wanna get some selection stuff.
yeah, sure, if that, yeah.
At what time, 9:30, 9:15?
Yeah, the annexation should be half an hour or...
No more than half an hour.
Make it 9:30 then.
We could do 9:30 and be covered.
All right.
For a motion?
I'll make a motion to, do the reclass and set hearing for 9:30, December 1st, on District 18.
Second. I'll second. Second by Mort. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anything else, Rick?
Just a couple things to update you on. Yemlin is working on DD6 lateral A1, Nielsen ground and some others out here east. All the pipe is in the ground. I was down Thursday, I think it was, and caught him there, the contractor. There's an intake or two to put in yet, but that's about it, and then some leveling. So that, they've got the pipe in the ground, that's the big thing before the weather sets in. we talked just briefly about DD 35 Branch D, that's the one out north of town that Denver's involved in. And I told you a little bit about the conversations with Denver. So we are, I don't want to say we're in negotiations, but we are gonna hold their feet to the fire for some of that expense at least. I got a call from Doug Marshall on the way down. He's working over in Gilmore City right now. DD 92 is a district that falls in Gilmore, and they had a problem, thought it was just gonna be an intake. There's a couple of north-south lines through Gilmore, and then one east-west for a block or two connecting. They got into it and they found tile collapsed, and they're saying it's in the drainage district. I'm gonna stop there and just verify. First I thought it was an east-west line, but when I talked to him last week, he said, no, it's a north-south line, and he's following the route of the old county tile. Plugged, collapsing. In town. Yeah.
Lovely.
I know, so.
That's the one we're paying on too, by the way. Clean this up while you do it.
Yeah. I've still gotta get through some of that, dealing with, because it appears that there's some of that was charged to the secondary roads that should be to the city of Gilmore. Some way with the right-of-way, yeah.
They're like that.
Yeah. Let's see. DD 59 west of town, I've been working, with Dave out at Paul's office. The east intake, the intake east of that long gravel drive that goes to the north, west of the school.
Okay.
I've been asking if he'd be willing to basically plug that line, because all we really need it to do is any backwater pressure to allow some of that into the structure. We want all the water from the south and the west to go northwest to our new outlet. So we just put the east intake, we just put that pipe in there as a release, basically. So they're still having problems in the residential area where 59 goes through. So I felt the best solution for that is to essentially plug that line going north, to force the water where we want it to go anyway, to the northwest. So it's, hear any comment on that, that's what was going on out there. It looked like they used a disc blade and welded on some, tabs on it, and then attached it. Did a good job with it. I don't know, they did a real good job with it. If you're curious sometime, you could take a look, to stop there, it's just off the road, so. But it was the intent was to force the water where we wanted it to go in the first place, so. In extreme conditions, they were getting a lot of water in the residential area yet, and that shouldn't be happening, so. That should have taken care of that. I'm sure you all heard that the Supreme Court refused to hear 126?
Oh, I missed that.
Okay, I wondered if, with the issues and things you've had.
Oh, I missed that.
Okay, but the Supreme Court did refuse to hear the case, so 126 is
We should be
over. Done.
All right.
Done deal. We've started looking at DD 6 open ditch, that we're trying to get that ridden in the next few days. Two reasons: if there's any chance of some more FEMA participation, and then what we can do for spot clean out to help that ditch out. I think it's gonna end up a complete clean out sometime, but we're trying to minimize the work at this point to
That's
just...
the one down by,
Thor.
Thor.
Yeah, catches,
What
the
was that
east end of
one
it's by
again?
Thor, DD 6.
That's when we've had several slough-offs over the past
Yes,
few
been quite a few
years.
slough-offs. There was a major repair done last year.
There was.
And 6 is huge, I mean, it actually goes over to Thor, but then it also goes up to Highway, 3.
Three, isn't it?
Yeah, the one Brian is,
The one we're
Younglin's
looking at
jumping
now.
into?
Yeah.
That all goes
That's
there.
also 6, so, yes.
That's big.
We've made adjustments on the DD2 main and lateral eye reclassification. There were some issues with land that was treated as residential because it's in the corporate limits, but it's being farmed. So at this point, we're gonna treat it as ag land. There were just a few parcels. Larry Lynch had questions on 2 or 3 parcels. We've corrected those, and we've also found a few others with the same situation that we've corrected. We still have yet to take care of the right-of-way, secondary roads versus, city, so that's all I can think of.
Railroad Livermore. Where are we at? Were you gonna get something?
I'm gonna, I've got that report, that reclass is done except for my review with the commissioners. And I'm struggling with how heavy we can go on that. What Eric Eady said is, whatever you can justify for, how do you put it? Benefit is for them to have been able to even put the railroad in there to drain the swamp. So, I'll put that review right near the top of the list too, so just over the next month, we can get several of those cleaned up.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Cleaned up?
Yeah.
Where's cleanup?
It is
hard.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it, yeah.
I'm gonna get you guys a chart, maybe next time, this isn't very clean. We did, the price of corn and beans was a question on how they can afford to do drainage district work, new projects. This is a chart from 1994 on the price of corn, the average price the Iowa farmer got per month, based on Iowa State Extension. So, I didn't like how the numbers were and the lines didn't show up. I'll get you one of these, I just find it real interesting, when it, how long was it over $7, and what months was it over $7, and how far has it dropped, and, how far was it between spikes on price, so, we'll get you.
Suffering.
So, but I enjoyed looking at this, and I think it would be just helpful to kinda see what things have done. So I'll get that to you, one of the next meetings.
Anything else?
You earn your money per day.
All right.
Yeah, it happens.
Take a break.
Yeah.
We need a motion to go out of drainage.
I so move.
Second?
I'll second.
Nobody wants to leave.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, that's just stuff.
Oh, okay,
That's nothing important.
okay.
That one, that's not your problem.
Okay. Good.
You get off on that one. Thanks, Trish.
Dean, you're only an hour late.
Ooh. Getting that kind of morning again.
It's all Rick's fault.
I know.
Drainage and it's more and more.
That's right.
You never know.
Exactly.
It seems like it always runs long.
Plan.
No. Thank you.
On DD 125, did you set the bid meeting for January, the date?
No,
You haven't set the bid meeting?
that wasn't on the agenda, we'll do that at some other time.
Okay.
Yeah, good point.
Come on up, Dean.
Thank you, Barry, thought we forgot about her again. Of course, she got a lot of work done.
We're good. Okay, Veterans Affairs Quarterly Report.
Here's my nose. And I give you a little chart too, where the budget is for the first quarter. No, we've had some, unusually heavy expenses for the month, for the first quarter. With our budget being $5,700 a month, and we ran 64 in July, 61 in August, and 79 in September. September, a lot of that was 'cause I had to spend a week at school in South Dakota, and then I had to have Craig Malloy come to the office for that week, so at least a third of that was because of the school that I attended up in Pierre, South Dakota.
Utilities, the utilities we paid to, some of our county assistants, ran, our budget, quarterly budget was $1,000, we ran $2,900 in utilities. Rental assistance, our quarterly budget was $3,750, we ran $6,200 in that 3-month period. So, we're about $3,200 right now over our budget. At least for this month of October, I see us falling below that $5,700, so we're on the right path as long as we can continue to maintain that. We have had some exceptionally needy vets here over the past couple of months that we've had to help, and some are very serious, so I think the money was well spent, but we have to do a better job of trying to control it, and you just don't know, you just don't know who's gonna walk into your office and what kind of assistance they're going to need. So, again, the rentals are gonna come down, at least for this month, because there are a couple of the clients, a couple of veterans will not need assistance no longer.
Are these younger or older veterans needing most of the assistance?
It's a mixture. There are some elderly, that we're giving assistance to. And there are also some, Afghanistan, Iraqi vets that we're giving assistance to.
Well, I think we just give it another 3 months, see where we're at.
Yeah.
You have to adjust the budget, you have to adjust,
Right.
at least you're reaching the people that you need to serve,
Right.
and that's what you're supposed to do, so.
And right now we have, I have currently 25 open claims, that I'm waiting on, answers from the VA on. And that ranges from, getting into the healthcare system, all the way to appeals or denied claims. So right now, there's quite a few claims that, there's quite a few veterans have been coming through the office looking for assistance. Quite a few, even Agent Orange issues yet from Vietnam that, are still popping up. So there's a lot of good things going on, with the VA itself. Some of the, they've increased they speeded up at least their time, probably because of all the pressure that they've been getting. I know getting into the healthcare system, it's taken a month or less for the veteran to get back, get an answer whether they're approved or disapproved. Honor flights for 2015 are scheduled for May 9th and September 18th. The next fundraiser is going to be November 2nd, and I think it's going to be at Pasquale's. I should know more of that this next coming week. We've been looking at veterans in the care centers too. We've got there's 13 veterans in the North Care Center, and there's 5 veterans in the South Care Center. So I've been trying to spend more time getting to know some of those elderly veterans too. Like I said, I attended the National Association of County Veterans school in last week of August in Pierre, South Dakota. And that school was a school for getting my accreditation. So I'm currently nationally certified. And, but my next goal is starting tomorrow, or starting Wednesday in Des Moines, the fall school. And you have to have so many hours to retain your accreditation, so there's the spring school and the fall school you have to go to. So that's, again, that's Wednesday of this week. And the other thing I would like to just address is, Dean Telford, as you guys know, announced he wanted to retire.
Right.
What is that process? Do you pick, I know you've had one or two applicants. Who is responsible to pick that commissioner?
I think it falls on our shoulders, does it not?
That's how we picked the
Dean couldn't come up with a name in his area of anybody.
Well, I don't, not in his area now, but there is one candidate I know in town here that is interested in the position.
Yeah, if you give us the name and
I think he's made out the application. I'm not sure who he gave that to, or...
Does he give it to the PA board?
I think he came up...
I think he doesn't have it.
You don't have it either? Is that where it needs to go, is through you, or where?
I think that'd be up to your board, yeah.
Because they're the ones,
You
yeah.
guys appoint them,
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
they would hire them, and I'm
I think they,
What we've done in the past-
Put Merlin Graff on, I think they recommended him.
Yeah, we recommended him, and then they did, or we had a recommendation.
So,
Or whoever you come
so
up
once that is agreed, then Dean can
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
chop off.
He wants to get done, so we need to
Yeah.
get this moving.
Yeah.
You might wanna check on that.
I will.
Bring it back to us and let us know.
All right.
Been requesting it for 6 months or a year, I think.
What's that?
You've been requesting it 6
Yeah,
months or a
since,
year.
at least 4 or 5 months, yeah.
I just want you to take that's information on that homeless housing, funding and stuff, you can keep those brochures down there at your office.
All right.
You can look through that if any questions you have.
No idea.
There's funding support for home improvements and stuff, to keep people in their homes.
Okay, anything else, Dean?
No, that's all I've got.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And make a motion
Thank
to
you.
accept the place on file, Veterans Affairs Quarterly Report for the quarter ended September 30th, 14.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Mr. Kruger?
Yes.
You're up.
Okay, I'll let Linda talk here.
Good morning.
Absolutely.
I didn't take any thought process.
You don't have to vote on
Is this
that.
on tape?
There you go.
We got a whole stack here.
Were they all?
The same, yeah, just one, that's all.
Here you go, Linda.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we've been kind of working on budgets and everything, and I've talked to Bruce and Steve Cook. Brad is, as you can see, he broke it down, so the building envelopes, the new addition would be the 547, the renovations are 213. The thing off to the right hand, I did not, that was one of those 3 AM things, I woke up and I got to thinking, the budget, if, like, all these fees were included in this, in those figures, and I talked to him this morning, and they are. The only thing, the last one was that ADA compliant lift station for the dispatch, and he does not have that in this, but Steve has it in his. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't doubled up. So his, figures are, he thinks is pretty much spot on. He said, you know, they need to get like, electrical and, some other engineers down here, mechanical engineers. He said, so, the further they get in and refine this process, then they'll know more if those are absolutely the right figures, but he's pretty confident that's gonna be really close. So then you've got the furnishings for both spaces, and then the technology. So right now, Steve is at $350,000, but he also needs quotes from a trencher and an electrician. And I have no idea what that will cost. Maybe you guys have a better idea of what that would be.
Oh,
Trenching shouldn't be too bad, 'cause you don't have very far to go.
no, electrician, 5,000 ought to cover most of that, shouldn't it? Rick?
Okay. So then that technology figure of 370, you know, we can probably
Pretty close.
back it off to more, to his 350. And that includes kinda like Motorola will cut this minimum of 25,000 if you order it by the end of the year, stuff like that. But I know you're gonna be around that $350,000 range. Brittany had to leave, she had to leave by 10, but if we wanna talk to her on the phone, we can. I'll explain what I know. You can still get that $300,000 loan, through the Rural Economic Development Loan. Corn Belt Power will put in $60,000, but that is also a loan.
Okay.
There is no grant to it, I didn't think there was. They do have $750 closing costs. They're both of those, the 360 together, are a 10-year, zero-interest loan. You can defer payments up to 12 months, but then if you do that, then, you know, you're 9 years instead of 10 years. You can pay that monthly, you can pay it annually, semi-annually, however you want to do that. So, and there is a possibility, if you do need more than that, to borrow more than that, then they also have another fund themselves that they could loan you more money, but the interest rate is gonna be, like a 1% interest rate with a 1% administration fee, and that's up to 10 years. So, you could get more loans there. I talked to Preston with the USD, a community facility grant, and they have not been allocated funds for this year yet, so they really don't know where they stand for sure. He said in the past couple of years, when they do have grants, and they already have grants sitting there waiting, but they've been, even like our cap, because of the median income, would be $50,000. Even though we would maybe be eligible for $50,000, they've been kind of trying to spread the wealth, so to speak. So they've been giving out more like $10,000 awards to more people. And timing is gonna be kind of important, because I thought he said June and July, the funds all go back to the federal level from all the states that haven't used that money. And I'm like, do states really have money left over? And he said, definitely they do. And then the federal government also holds back a certain amount before they even disperse it to the states. So then you can compete for those funds on a national level. And then that grant, they would go up to that $50,000 cap again. You'd go back up. But then you're also competing nationally. And in the points criteria, I know like there's 100 points possible, and in the population, there's 30 points possible, which we get all 30 because we're a low population. But then we only get 5 points because of median income, so that's the lowest score. But he had a project there that was funded at 70 points. So, you know, it's just to lose that 25 points right off the bat just because of, you know, median income. But, and that's that part. We also talked about, I'm kind of getting to the point where in my head, I'm really separating this project out. In fact, I separated it even more this morning. I think the most urgent part, especially, you know, to people in the county, is that E911 system. And so I asked Brad this morning, I said, you know, can you tell me about what it will cost to fund the dispatch area. I thought if I can break this down into just dispatch and E911, and he said, so he figured it by, square footage, and he's using 225 square foot for the dispatch area. But part of that is because that restroom there is going to be a hardened, this restroom.
Yeah.
So they can go in there for, like, say, in a tornado or something
Yeah.
like that. So that's why, yeah, so he's not using that 225 for, like, the rest of the building, but for the dispatch area. So he thought it would be about $105,000 to do dispatch in that restroom. So, and that was just for my own purposes, I had him do that, but that's still not separate from anything else. He's got it in here, I just wanted it separated out, because I'm not sure how to approach all this yet. And then at this USDA facility, then, he also said that if you don't get a grant or whatever, they also have loans. And it's a 20-year fixed 4% loan, there's no closing costs, and there's no early repayment penalties. And it sounds like you can borrow pretty much what you need to borrow. There's not like there's no limit or anything, like with the rural economic one.
4%?
Yep. So,
Give us some more options, Peggy, a little bit, in the borrowing part of it. If we get the money up front and don't have to pay it all at once, versus taking it out of our budget, so. In 1 year, I think we're gonna have to spread this out, don't you? I don't, we talked about what reserves we might have, but, that's why they're reserved too, you can't just take all of that out.
Yeah. And I know even for like purposes of that grant from them, I had we decided that we're gonna just stick, if I go ahead and apply for that community facility, the grant, I'm just gonna apply for technology. In fact, that's what I've been going through I've almost switched my whole focus of the project to focus on that technology, and I thought, well, it'd be nice if I could throw in, that was my thought process of throwing in the dispatch area, kind of making that...
Cost of the room, yeah.
Yeah, to make that just a 911 project, to see if I can find funds for that, because building funds, I just have...
There just isn't much out there.
There just isn't anything. Loans, yes, grants, no. And there's a few things like, and it just, the timing is so awful, because there were technology funds and building funds maybe like 3-4 years ago, but they're not funded now, we're just at that wrong time, and same way with the technology. I'm still hoping to find something in that 911 area.